Welcome to the Aligned and Magnetic Podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Ashley. I'm an ICF certified business alignment coach, and they call me the money mindset and manifestation queen. I'm here to help you make your vision for your life and business a reality and doing it in a way that lights you the fuck up. If you're ready to build an aligned, magnetic, and profitable business so that you can live the life of your dreams, you are definitely in the right place. In this podcast, I promise to provide you with the raw lessons, the tools, and powerful questions to help you on the way to creating success your way. Thank you so much for being here. Now let's dive in. Hi, loves. Welcome back to another episode of the Aligned and Magnetic Podcast. Today we have a wonderful guest, Jenna Slaughter. Jenna is a heart-forward business coach, an embodiment mentor, a reiki practitioner, and the host of the Unlearning Podcast. They help anxious babes transform into self-trusting badasses so they can build a life, business, and relationships that embody their wholeness. And I just have to say, when I first read this bio, Jenna, I got like a whole body like, ooh, that is good. Yes, very powerful. So welcome to the podcast, Jenna.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Of course. So I didn't prepare any like icebreaker things because I feel like we know each other really well. But do you want to start by telling us a little bit about how you got started in business?
Sure. Yeah. When I was in college, the dream was to be a physical therapist. So I was doing a lot of like basically pre-med type of classes, learning a lot about the body, behavior, why we do what we do. And then when I was a junior in college, because I worked 2 jobs through college, my advisor sat me down and was like, so what's the alternative plan if you can't get into physical therapy school? Because you need like a 3.8. I know you're working 2 jobs and you're getting like a 3.4, which is great, but it's not going to get you into PT school. So what's the alternative? And so that was a whole existential crisis that I went through with having to shift there. And that was when I decided to pick up 2 different business minors. And I went into the competitive corporate sales team that my college had. And that really opened up a lot of opportunities for me as far as learning how businesses run from an entrepreneurial standpoint, as well as how to sell, communicate, and market with people. So I went into corporate sales out of college, which eventually moved me out to Portland, which is my home and I love. And then honestly, it really didn't matter how much money I was making because I was miserable. And every day that I would get up, I was so anxious. I was like waking up nauseous and I was like, I can't continue to live like this. And so eventually I shifted into property management. So that way I was able to I clock in, I clock out, and after that, I'm able to do what I want to do. So during that time, I was kind of coaching, but in a capacity that was like free. So I was like helping people start up or take an idea that they have and figure out the feasibility and that kind of stuff. And I did like that, but really at the same time, I was doing a lot of self-care work, a lot of my spiritual journey was really taking off. And I felt very torn between, do I want to help people in business or do I want to help people with their self-care and their personal development? And I felt like those were kind of 2 different houses to help people in. And so I kind of fiddled with both all in an uncompensated way until, what was it, 2019? Was that when we started working together?
Wasn't it 2020?
2020. Oh yes, it was, because it was right when I got laid off from my property management job during the pandemic. And I was like, I don't know what to do from here. And I asked the universe, I was like, if I am supposed to take this push and figure out what I want to do from a coaching standpoint. If that's what I'm supposed to do, I'm going to need you to give me a sign. Like, I'm going to need it to be, and I was specific. Like, I was like,
5 o'clock tomorrow.
No, I didn't even give them till 5 o'clock tomorrow.
Oh.
It was in the morning, and I was like, I need it before noon, and it's got to be a feather. And like, if I don't see it, then I'm applying for jobs. And I went and took my dog for a walk, as I usually do. And as I was walking around this block, it was only 2 blocks from home, and I saw a little feather on the side of the sidewalk, and it was positioned in a way that, had I not been looking for it, I wouldn't have seen it. And you know that point in time where you get a sign, and then you say, the logical voice comes in, and you say, nah, it could just be random.
That's a coincidence. Yeah. That's not my sign.
That's not mine. That's for somebody else. So I took out my phone to take a picture of it, and it was at 11:11.
Oh my God.
And I heard this voice in my head that I had not heard before, which I now know is like my main spirit guide's voice, and I've become very familiar with her. And it was just like, well, if it was any other time, you wouldn't have believed me. And I was like, oh shit. Because it was at that point in time that I realized this was my time, that I needed to really step into the impact and the soul's work that I want to have in the world. And it was within that same week that I hired you as my coach.
Yeah.
So that's the how we got into business, and how I ended up making the biggest, scariest investment of my career.
Yeah, super crazy how you went from, like, I don't know if you feel this too, but when you're studying and you're like, okay, I have this career path ahead of me, like I'm going to be a PT, or like whatever role it is that you're studying for. For me, it was psychology. I'm going to be like a psychologist. And then you get there and you're like, but wait, it involves all these other things. And then somehow you just get turned around with your other jobs and everything. And then you kind of end up exactly where you're meant to be, which I think is amazing.
Yeah. I really agree with that. I resonate with that a lot, actually. And when people ask me if I would ever want to go to school to be a therapist, for example, because I still do a lot of, like, emotional and mindset and energetic work with
therapeutic
people.
Yeah,
it is therapeutic, but it's not therapy, right? And I always say no. It doesn't interest me because of the extra structure that you have to play within. To me, it doesn't appeal to me. I'm able to, as a coach, I'm able to say, here are the modalities that I'll use. Here are the values that I bring. Does that align with you? Hell yeah, awesome. And so, I feel like I've ended up right where I'm supposed to be. I'm doing things that light me up. Isn't that what life is supposed to be about?
Exactly. And I love that you notice the signs too. I feel like, sometimes when we're going through it, the nausea and the misery and all of that stuff, sometimes it's hard to see. I think sometimes people think that that's like what adulthood is,
Yeah.
And it's not. It's not at all. Yeah.
But that's what we're told, and that's what we see as normal. But what I've come to learn is that normal does not always equal healthy.
Yeah.
And that's something that I talk about a lot on my podcast, is like this unlearning of the conditioning and the quote unquote lessons that we were told by the people around us. Just because it's normal doesn't mean that it's healthy, or that it's something that we need to perpetuate in our lives.
I love that. So from this point, we started working together, and you mentioned you were kind of torn between, like, do I go business? Do I go self-care? Like, what do I help people with? Do you want to talk us through kind of how that unfolded?
Sure. Yeah. So I remember there was this really deep desire to have it figured out and know exactly where I was going, and that it was going to work, and all sorts of this controlling, you can almost hear it in my voice, this like hyper masculine energy. And what was really beautiful about having a coach at that time and having you as the coach is that you challenged me to release some of that control and some of that need to know right away, and just follow what feels good in my heart and find the clarity in the action itself.
I love
and
that.
I let the action guide me. And so that's why it's like, I know we no longer need to see the whole staircase in order to make one step. I don't need to know the entire direction. I just need to trust in my ability to move forward in whatever circumstances that is. And so because of that detachment, you know, I asked myself, like, okay, what if one person's life could be changed? Is it worth saying this thing? So it stopped being about me needing to ensure and make this giant impact and this like overnight success. And it started being about serving the collective. And when we serve the collective, and we like at an energetic level, and we're talking like universal laws of manifestation, when we stop being hyper focused on this direct exchange and start trusting in, if I am putting out value and I'm putting out help and education, inspiration, it is inevitable that I will be compensated in some way. And that's exactly what fucking happened over and over and over again. So yeah, that was, I mean, that was really like where I was at the beginning, and the things that I needed in order to be able to take those steps forward, and the lessons that have kept me moving forward. I remember our theme between you and I that you gave me was like heart forward. Like just put what feels good in your heart out there, lead with that. And that seed just became bigger. It grew into a whole framework of values that I have now, and I teach my clients. Like there's a whole framework now with Heart Forward, and I leverage it in business, and we leverage it in my embodiment mentorship. And it's so cool now to see clients and like people that are in my life talk about Heart Forward. And I'm like, you got that from me.
Yeah, I started that shit.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So oh, I love that so much. There was something in there that I really, the messy action. You know, I feel like what held me back in the beginning as well, and what holds a lot of people back, I hear this continuously. And, you know, actually my sister and I were just talking about it yesterday. And it's this, like, we want to have everything figured out. Like, we want to know exactly who we're serving, exactly what we're talking about, exactly how the bigger picture is going to look before we even take that first step. But I mean, I don't know about anyone listening or about you, but I feel like anytime I have ever tried to plan that far ahead, it doesn't work out anyway, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that through our work together, you were really able to lean in and just start taking those steps, because that's exactly what it is to start a business, right? And then you look at where you ended up now with your Heart Forward framework.
Yeah. Well, I think there is something beautiful to be said about planning.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. But
I believe that there are the energy that we bring to the planning is what really makes the difference. If we are hyper attached to, it's this plan and this is the thing and this is exactly how I'm going to help people, like it's coming from an egoic standpoint.
Yeah.
Whereas if we look at planning from a more playful place, or like, ooh,
this could happen.
This or something better. That's something else that I got from our work together.
Yeah. I just want to interrupt really quickly to let you know, love, that if you are resonating with Jenna's story and you are ready to make more money in your business by opening up to receive and doing the things, like doing the strategic things, but also really leaning on your intuition and letting go and making business easier for yourself, I want you to know that I am accepting one-on-one clients right now. So if you are ready to go bigger in 2023, you're ready to reach your $4,000 to $8,000 months, your 10K months, whatever it is, tell me your goals. I will tell you how we can get there. I would love to work with you. I'm also opening up my mastermind in the new year, so we've got lots of options to work with, and I'm sure that we can find something to support you with where you are at right now. So go ahead and book a connection call with me and we will have a conversation. I want to get to know you. You can get to know me, and we will see how we can make your dreams a reality.
It's always this or something better. I am open to the universe blowing my fucking mind by things coming in out of nowhere.
Absolutely. I love that so much. When I see my clients manifesting or like receiving opportunities from nowhere, it makes my soul light up. It's like the most amazing feeling.
I actually have a really good example of this detachment from the immediate transaction to the greater whole. So it was early 2021, there was a person that I had connected with, and she had started a nonprofit to help with, so they ended up morphing into doing suicide intervention workshops, helping with the queer community. And she asked me to help her coordinate and execute on an online summit for LGBTQ families and content creators. Everybody all came together. And so I put in probably like 10 hours a week for a few months, and it was all uncompensated, quote unquote. And I did it because it felt good. It felt like this is what I want to do in the world. And I don't know how I'm going to be compensated, but I know that eventually it will be in some way, shape, or form. And later on that year, she had a coach of hers was doing a whole speakers summit in Las Vegas. And this is like a multi-$1,000, multi-day affair, and putting together your whole speakers kit and including photos and figuring out who you're going to talk to and all that kind of stuff. And guess who she decided to bring with her? This guy right here. So you never know what things are going to lead to if you are so focused on getting this immediate payoff. You never know what you're going to block yourself off from. So be open.
I love that. Open. Yeah. I see a lot, like, I kind of feel it in the sense that when we're so focused on something, I just get this image in my head of like somebody's body like completely closing, and like all the muscles are tight and it's just like block, like, and I feel honestly that can even block us off from like the plan that we even have in front of us. I think that if you put enough force and effort into it, sure, you can accomplish anything. But I don't know, personally, I found a lot more reward and satisfaction from opening up to surprises from the universe. It's not really fun all the time to know everything and to plan everything.
I'm kind of curious, and I know you're interviewing me, but I have a question for you. Is how do you discern between, and I know the answer for myself, but I think that people that are listening to this could benefit from it. How do you discern between this clarity and this, fostering the desire for what you want, and just being like wimbly bimbly, like not doing the work, not showing up and just being like, oh, it'll happen. I feel like there's a balance to be had there between fostering the desire, but then also the integrative work. Like, I think of it as like making the nest for the thing to come.
Well, and I talk about that in terms of masculine and feminine energy, right? I feel the feminine energy is very much like tapping into that desire and building the vision on an energetic level. But then the masculine energy is like, okay, what's going to hold that vision, right? And what's going to put that vision out into the world, because I think that is a common misconception and one that I struggled with in the beginning. And honestly, I still sometimes fall into like too feminine, and I'm like, well, shit, like how are people gonna know about all of these dreams that I have if I don't tell them?
Right.
Or like what I have to offer, you know? So it's definitely a balance. And I think a lot of people do get stuck in one or the other, right? Because there's also a lot of business people that are solely in the masculine. They're stressed out, burnt out, unhappy with their businesses, or they're not seeing results because they're like way too closed off, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, for me, like I always notice I'm unbalanced if I'm not getting the results I desire. And, you know, this comes back to human design, right? If I'm frustrated or dissatisfied, I can feel it in my body. I'm like, something's off. Like what's going on here? Like, how am I showing up for my desire? How am I approaching it? Like, am I even desiring anything, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'd love to hear what you think about that.
Well, I think for myself, I know that I'm off track when I get too far into the masculine, actually.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, for example, when it comes to a launch, and it's always been a learning curve. It's easy for me to talk about and sell other people's things, but to sell my own stuff has been like wanting to boil my skin off. But I realized that it is integral to outwardly just point blank tell people how they can work with you.
It's heart forward.
If they don't know and you don't make it easy, then they can't work with you. And it is selfish to hoard tools. It is selfish to keep your gifts to yourself because you're so worried about being rejected. It is kind to share your gifts with other people. It is kind to be vulnerable.
Absolutely.
So there are times where I've gotten too into the masculine where I'll be like, okay, here's this beautiful divine, like flow and energy, this thing that I have. And then I'll be like, okay, here are the things that people said that I need to do. And then I go like execute them and I keep doing it. And then I get to the point where, so my not self is being bitter as a projector. And when I feel like it's like, oh, whatever, this doesn't even matter. Fuck everybody anyway. Like that's when I know that I'm off track and I'm falling too hard into the masculine. And I need to be like, okay, I just kind of like reel in my energy, because that's when I realize that I've like over allocated or I've lost the essence of the idea of like the energy of what it is that I really want to serve the world with. And I've gotten too far into, I need to execute it this way. I need to tell people in this way and that way and this way. But then what if on my heart, I want to do like an Instagram live and just talk about it. If I'm too far into my masculine, I don't follow those intuitive nudges, because the masculine is much louder than the feminine. And if I'm not sitting with and letting the intuition come through, we're not going to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's definitely a balance.
Yeah, for sure. And I find too that when we're so stuck in that one track mind, like we almost close off to solutions. We see shit not working and then we're like, oh, well, it's not working. Well, I'm just going to keep trying these ways that are not working. And then I feel like for me, when I stand back, because I go through these things too, right? Like I'm no stranger, like perfect human, you know what I mean? So I think everybody goes through this, but I notice when I sit back and I'm like, okay, like intuition, God, universe, angels, like whatever, what do I need to do? Like, how do I get this out there? How do I tell the people and attract the people who are meant to work with me? That's when solutions come through for me anyway. The intuitive solutions. Yeah.
Yeah. I do that as well, where I will, and I think it's a level of surrender, honestly, when I say, I'm like, I don't fucking know what you want from me. And I just kind of like look up and I'm just, talking to whoever the fuck it is. And I'm like, I don't know. I recognize in my skin suit, I do not fucking know. So please move me, show me what the next right steps are, and I will follow them. Because as humans, we have our willpower. And the universe, our guides, whatever you ascribe to, they need our free will in order for them to actually come through.
True. Yeah, very true.
So I will literally do that. I'll say, move me, show me what the next thing is. I don't know. And there are times too where I've gotten really like bratty with the universe, where I'm just like, you know what? I'm about to quit. Like, if you don't fucking show me that there's something worth moving forward with, I'm done. I'm about to go apply for jobs. And every fucking time there's something where it's just like, all right, here you go. Here's a client inquiry. All right, quit bitching.
You little brat.
Yeah.
Shut your mouth.
Yes,
Keep moving.
Exactly.
That's so funny. So be a brat. It works.
Yes, exactly. Bratting the universe is yeah, it works. I sometimes think of it as like daddy universe. Like, I'm like, all right. You want me to do all these things? You want me to drink my water, take my meds? You want me to keep being heart forward and do my soul's work? Well, I'm gonna need some kind of compensation, because
give me the allowance. Yeah,
give me the allowance, daddy. I need to pay my rent.
Oh my God, that's so funny. I feel like, why does that make so much sense for you as a person? I feel like that fits you entirely.
Yeah. If you who are listening this, like, go follow me on Instagram. It'll all make sense. Like, yes. I'm very queer.
You're very comical.
Yes. all of those things. And yeah, I think that's actually another piece of this conversation, is allowing myself to embrace the multifaceted nature. To be both. Yeah. Like, funnily enough, over the few years, because now we're in end of 2022, I now do both embodiment mentorship as well as heart forward business coaching.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, you just, you thought you had to choose one or the other, but they came together. Yeah.
And what's interesting is there's almost always overlap. People will come to me for the heart forward business coaching, but then we'll spend a few months just working on like the energetics and the mindset stuff. Right. And then people will come to me for like embodiment mentorship. And then actually through that, we end up creating something together. But the messaging that appeals to those different people is a little different. Yeah. But I had to give myself permission to be both. I'm multi-passionate. Everybody is. And I had to stop trying to like niche myself. I can niche an offer and be like, this is who it would be especially good for. But I'm no longer trying to be just this one thing. I'm no longer trying to just present like business stuff online. Like, I am all of these things, and the people are going to buy from you as a human being, not as necessarily a business. And in fact, if you just are only posting business stuff, it's really stale. And I don't think that it's going to convert in 2022.
No, I love that. It's, yeah, you're so right. And like what you're talking about right there is the magnetism, right? Like, you're being your authentic self. You are sharing what's on your heart to share. You're serving the world. And I believe when you're in that alignment, because to me, that's what alignment means. You're aligned with yourself, your higher self, with the universe. That's when you start to magnetize those things that you're asking for. Like you were mentioning before we started, that you magnetize that speaking opportunity, right? Like, oh, I haven't spoken in a while. And then bam, right there in your hand, Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. I think there's a double-edged sword though, when it comes to magnetism. In order to be truly unapologetically aligned to the things that are on your heart and your soul, you are naturally going to be repelling the things that are not in alignment.
Exactly. Yeah.
So are you willing to accept that there are going to be people that are repelled by your truth? Are you willing to accept that? Are you willing to accept the rejection because you accept yourself?
Exactly.
At the end of the day, if you are accepting and loving yourself, it doesn't matter what anybody else is saying, what the people back home are saying or judging you or whatever. If you are standing in your light, in your true power, like one of the symbols that you and I had in our coaching was like, be the lighthouse. And you have to shine for the boats that need you through that storm. You got to shine. But if you are not willing to fully turn your light on in fear of being too bright for some people, you are not going to be able to be seen by the people that need your work and your truth.
Exactly. I love that.
Whew.
Yeah, that's gold right there. Mic drop.
Came over me.
Did you channel that?
I think so. It just came over me.
It felt like it. It's so true though, because, I've lost a lot, like in my journey of committing to my alignment and committing to my happiness and like my purpose and my spiritual lessons even. I've lost things. I've gone through things, with friends, with family, I got divorced and just like all of these things. Yeah. Divorce club.
Yes. Best thing to happen to me ever.
Exactly. Right. So, but I think when you're in the muck of it, you're right. It can be really, I forget the word you use, but it can be really scary and, contrasting, and you don't really know what or why or anything, but committing to the pathway, committing to the alignment, at least in my experience, has always been right in the end. Yeah. Can
I speak to that?
Yeah.
So this goes back to, you don't need to know the full picture. Exactly. You just need to trust in your navigation abilities.
Exactly.
Like, if you who are listening to this, if you are in the muck of it, are you willing to accept and look at this as your before? Are you willing to sit in the contrast and figure out what the fuck the lessons are to move forward? Are you willing to not know? Because if you are, that is how you can alchemize that contrast, and you can live a life that you truly, at the current state that you are in, will not believe. This is how you let in more happiness, and like that expansion is by releasing what's no longer serving you. We can talk all day long and say like, oh, I release all things that no longer serve me. But do you? Do you really? Because release is hard. And sometimes it hurts. And sometimes it's going to feel like everything is fucking dark and you have no idea where you are going. But I can tell you that where you are going is better than where you are right now. And it will get better if you truly surrender to, it is this or something better.
Yeah. And I love that so much. And following through, like what you're saying, I think what comes to my mind is like follow through. Because, there's been times in my life where I'm like, yeah, I know that I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I know that like, in 1 year from now, I'm going to quit this. And then it's like the year comes like, oh, well, maybe I'll just go 1 more year, or like maybe 6 more months and then I'll quit. And then, when it comes down to it, when you're stepping into your alignment, like if you got to pull the plug, you got to let it go. Yeah. Or else you just keep repeating the same damn patterns.
The discomfort of what you know versus the discomfort of what you don't.
Yeah.
And the thing is that over time, if you refuse to let something go that is no longer serving your highest good, the universe will give you more and more difficulties in keeping it. Exactly. Example, my corporate job. I knew for a while that I had wanted to move into coaching. I wanted to work for myself. The corporate work felt exhausting. It felt like, why am I putting in my blood, sweat, and tears, if you will, for somebody else's bottom line? And so I got sick of that. And I knew that was happening until suddenly I'm getting fucking laid off with, only a few weeks of savings. I had no idea what I was doing. And so like there was this quote that I saw the other day that was like, if you want softer lessons from the universe, you have to listen to the softer messages. Yeah, listen to the nudges while they're still small before the universe goes, well, you said you didn't have time, so I decided to clear your schedule.
Yeah, so, you said you wanted to quit and move to Mexico. I decided to cut your contract. That's what happened to me.
Yeah.
And then you're like, wait, why is my contract cut? And then like a year later, you're like, oh, that's why. That makes sense now. Stupid.
Yes.
We're so funny.
Are you willing for it to be the before? Are you willing to look back and have it all make sense, even if it doesn't make sense now?
I love that. Yeah, definitely. So a question coming to mind, because, we all know that we all go through the muck. And I'm wondering, what is like maybe a tool or something that you do, or maybe a mantra, I don't know, anything that helps you to overcome the downs of whether it's entrepreneurship or life or, yeah.
I think for me, I've had to learn to trust that I can feel things. I can feel, I'm a very sensitive being. I feel things very bigly. And I've had to learn to trust myself that I can feel big emotions and move through them instead of getting stuck in them. And part of what has been the journey to be able to not get stuck in them. So I've had, severe depression and anxiety and a lot of trauma that I've had to work through. So what has allowed me to foster that trust is having more of a detachment from the judgment of my emotions. So what I mean by that is tapping into the physical sensations and saying, oh, I feel this real tightness in my chest. I feel this my arms feel tight. And looking at it more as like data or like a scientist, if you will. And there are actual brain chemical things that do back this up, because when we are looking at things from an observational standpoint, we are operating from a different part of our brain than when we are in the amygdala going, I feel so helpless. This is absolutely terrible. When we're creating a story about the sensations
and identifying with it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It makes it harder to move through. So, I've worked on tapping in from a science standpoint, looking at it as data, asking how can I nurture myself right now? What do I need right now? I ask, what stories am I telling myself right now? What stories am I willing to release right now? What may be true? What may not be true? Those are the types of questions that I will ask myself that help me minimize the struggle and just stay present with any pain or adverse experience that I'm having.
I love that. Yeah, that's beautiful. And I mean, it ties beautifully with the theme that we identified for this interview, which is detachment. And I'm wondering, because we didn't really define this, like, what is detachment? So I'm wondering if you feel called to put a couple words together. Like, what does detachment mean to you?
Yeah. So I think detachment of the stories, detachment of my identity with what I'm feeling. There is that. But I think as far as how it operated in business and my soul's work, I had to attach to this commitment that I am going to follow my heart, my soul, and my intuitive nudges. But it's like I have a detachment from needing to know exactly why right now. Like I am committed to following my intuition and my nudges, but they don't need to make intellectual sense right now.
Right.
So that, I think, for me was the detachment that I needed in the shift that I made while we were working together, is like, what feels good is what I need to follow. And I need that to be enough.
Yeah.
I'm allowing it to make sense later.
Mm-hmm.
And it always has made sense later. I'm like, oh, I was right where I was supposed to be, even if it didn't make sense. So that was when I kind of started like throwing spaghetti against the wall. And I started to be like, I am this and this. I like can help here and here. Like just being willing to just, if there's one person that can be helped, or one person that can be inspired, or one person that can be educated, is it worth doing? And if the answer was yes, then we'll do it. Or if there's nobody and it just helps me speak my truth, that's going to be enough. So there was like this detachment from this overnight success. That was the thing that allowed me to actually take steps forward.
Yeah. Fear, like there's so much in there, right? Like fear of failure, like, well, what if it doesn't work tomorrow?
Right. And what does that mean about me as a human?
Right.
That was really what came to be underlying the perfectionism, was the fear of failure. And that fear of failure was like getting in the way of learning the things that you need to in order to be an entrepreneur. I mean, you wear all of the hats, but if you're not willing to fail, then you're not willing to learn, you're not willing to grow, then where does that leave you? Right. Exactly the fuck where you are right now. Congratulations. You get to be right where you are right now.
Yeah.
You win.
Yeah.
Put a bow on your head.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Have so been there. Definitely.
I feel like I periodically find myself kind of in different iterations of that same thing. And this was something we talked about right before we started recording. And so for the people that are listening, if you find yourself coming back to the same lessons, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not making progress. It could mean that you're seeing them in a bit of a sneakier way, because that's how growth works. It's like in like a spiral. So it's like we have these same things that we need to learn. It's just at a different level. Yeah. And that's okay. Yeah. But don't make a big giant story about it. If you've been doing the work and you've been showing up, it's still going to come to bite you in the butt. It just might be a little bit sneakier.
Yes.
Take that as affirmation.
Yeah. And there's this huge misunderstanding. I feel like, I don't know how this came to be, but this whole idea of ascension, and like we get to, move through these lessons, and then people get mad when they're facing the same shit over and over again. Like, didn't I already learn this? And it's like, yeah, you did. Like it's here still, it never really goes away. I think we really repeat the same lessons, but like you said, in different ways, in bigger levels, but everyone's shit is usually the same.
Yep.
I love it. What is one piece of advice that you'd offer to a new entrepreneur or someone who's really resonating with this?
I would say that you can buy all the courses, you can consume all the podcasts, you can take all of the certifications, but if you are not integrating the lessons and you are not sharing the things that you are learning, you're going to be very frustrated with your growth. And I just want you to tune into, where am I procrastinating my growth by thinking that I need just one more certification or just one more skill in order to be worthy to receive the success that you desire.
Yeah, I
see this happen all of the time. I tell people that they are hoarding knowledge. I used to do it all the time. I have clients that still do it. And what was under it is truly this really sneaky unworthiness issue.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I think it's time that you anoint yourself and decide that you are worthy of receiving what you desire.
Mm-hmm.
You are already enough.
Mm-hmm.
The patriarchy will tell you that you need to try so much harder. You need to be all of these things to get back peanuts of recognition.
Get a PhD just to not.
Meanwhile, statistically, straight white men will go apply for a job that they are half-ass qualified for, walk into the interview unprepared and go, yeah, I've never done this before, but I can definitely do this.
Mm-hmm.
If you have half of the audacity of a straight white man and you are extra qualified,
you're good to go.
You're good to go. Like, just quit letting the patriarchy hold you back in this subconscious way. Anoint your fucking self. You're already worthy. You're already enough.
Mm-hmm.
Start fucking acting like it, okay?
I love that. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Super powerful. Embodiment. That's that embodiment piece, really, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. This has been so much fun. Do you want to share a little bit about what you are working on right now, where people can find you? What's the dealio?
Yes, of course. My main space that I show up, and I'm on a bit of a hiatus over there right now, but by the time that this airs, I'll probably be back creating content. But Instagram is the best way to reach me at It's Jenna Slaughter. And then my website has all of the different ways to work with me, jennaslaughter.com. Best way to work with me right now is one-on-one. I will be relaunching the Heart Forward Business Incubator in the spring. Likely, we'll see where my intuition nudges me there. But that is currently in its second month right now. So I do VIP months where that's where you can take like kind of 1 month of the 6-month container and see how it is to work with me. So I have the embodiment mentorship, which is more spiritual, energetic, and emotional. And then we have the Heart Forward business coaching, which is more obviously business oriented. So those are the best ways to work with me.
I love it. And I'm sure that you mix both of them in your work anyway. They're probably not as like separate as you make them seem.
Yes.
Yeah, I love it. And so Jenna has a free Heart Forward framework, right? That people can download. So if you are just curious about more of what their framework is looking like and what it means to build a Heart Forward business, then I will drop the link in the notes. Is there anything else that you want to add? Any concluding remarks?
No, I think we've really gone deep in this episode, and just thank you for having me.
Yeah, I loved our conversation. So thank you. It's always a pleasure to chat with you.
Absolutely. Same to you, my love.
I hope you loved today's episode as much as I did. Just a reminder to book a 30-minute connection call with me if you are ready to make 2023 your biggest year in business yet. Whatever that means for you, we can chat about it. I'll let you know how I can help you bring your business dreams into fruition. Remember that I am gifting 3 handmade candles by Jenna. So if you'd like to win a handmade candle, make sure you join the podcast launch party giveaway, and you'll get all the details for how you can enter to win. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast today. If you like what you heard, I would love it if you left a review. Make sure you check out my website in the show notes to get the links to the launch party giveaway. There are over $1,000 worth in products and services to help you grow and expand. And until next time, I'm sending you waves of abundance.